Hey, I gotta go to the garage. I gotta film this because people wanna know. They wanna know, hey, how much the S54 costs? You're a good puppy. What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the channel. Not really a vlog, but welcome back. My name is Jordan with Exotic Whips. Thank you, Chris, for pointing out the fact that I never introduced myself. And people are just wondering, is my name Exotic Whips? And it's not. My name is Jordan with Exotic Whips. Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a good one for you. So if you're new to the channel, thank you very much for watching. I hope you will subscribe. You don't have to, but I hope you will smash that subscribe button. We're getting a lot of good stuff coming up. Let me explain. Behind is my E36 M3. I just got back from Boost Logic. Thank you for the shirt, by the way. Just put an S54 engine into this car. There's also a lot of other things I've done to this. Go through some of my older videos. I've done a ton to it. I've done door seals, I've done exterior trim, I've done all new Euro lighting, I did the wing on the back, I did obviously Apex tires, I did ST coilover suspension, I did rear camber arms, I did ZHP steering rack, a lot of maintenance items, what else, Recaro seats, redid the interior panels, motorsport seat belts. I can't think of it all off the top. Oh, the BMW door handles, those. I have done an absolute ton to this car. It's been my project car for a little under a year now, and I've had an absolute blast with it. It's been awesome. Awesome. I love working on cars like this. I wouldn't say we're getting towards the end of the build, but we're definitely further along than we were. For a while there's a lull because I had no car. The car was getting the engine swap done. So, on that note, let me talk about why I didn't do the engine swap. This is my garage situation. This is my garage layout. So I used to do all the work right here. Now my fiance's car is here. My car's there now that it's back. But all of this extra part, old parts, headlights, rear camber arms, seat sliders, floor mats, panels, everything. My old tires, winter tires for my fiance's car, spare tire, extra seat that I bought for something random. What I'm getting to is the severe lack of space. Not only that, but a lack of tools. When I started this project, I literally didn't even have that toolbox. So I had barely any tools. I've had tools in the past that I had to sell because of moving, things like that. So it's not my first time around tools or doing something like this, but to do the stuff I've done so far, you can get by with a socket set, torque wrench, something to use for leverage, some opened-in wrenches, a few Allen keys, stuff like that. To do an engine swap, completely different. You need a cherry picker, you need room for the front clip, you need the ability to either raise the car way up off the ground or have the ability to move the engine very far away from the car as you're pulling it out. There's a lot of things needed for that. So I don't have the space. I don't have the tools. It's not something I wanted to tackle on my own. If I were doing the swap on my own, I'm fairly certain I would still be doing the swap. The car wouldn't be running yet. I would learn a ton, but I learned a ton while having Boost Logic do it too. I was always in contact with Roman. He was always telling me things that were going wrong, which there wasn't really, but parts needed. That's another thing. They spotted a lot of things and did a lot of extra things to this car while the motor was out, while it was up in the air, that I wouldn't have been able to do. So, with that being said, let's dive into everything I did for this swap. And I'm not talking just what Boost Logic did. I'm talking all the extra stuff I got too. Because you can do this swap for kind of cheap. Cheap is relative. But I didn't do that. I went kind of above and beyond. And first example of how. This guy right here. This is a Zionsville radiator. You can't see it under this nice shroud, But under here is a Zionsville radiator. This radiator, which is all aluminum, welded, has an expansion tank, was $2,000, give or take. That is roughly $1,600 more than I needed to spend on a radiator. When you do this swap, you need to upgrade cooling. You can upgrade cooling to an OEM unit that is pretty good, and it would probably be around $300 to $400. I wanted to go with something like this because in Texas, it gets hot, that holds more, that cools better. It's just a better unit altogether. So I'll get this out of the way really quick. If you're gonna do this swap in an E36, what do you need? What are the essentials, bare bones, just to make it work? Well, you're gonna need the S54, obviously. This will range from between $300 to $4,500. Since I haven't bought an S54 before and I've never used anyone and I don't know, different people will give you different quality of things. I used Roman over at Boost Logic to source this engine. I believe he charged me $4,000 for it. I'll tell you. Yes, he charged me $4,000 for it. Now, could I have got it for $3,500? Probably. Would I have known if it would have been good quality? Not a clue. So I trusted him. He needs to make money too, completely understand that. So you're gonna need an S54. What you're also going to need is a wire harness, that guy right there. Now there might be different ways to do this, I don't know. The wire harness I got is a custom harness from Andrew over at Rev Limited. And this harness does have CAN bus and it has the ability to have the sport button as well. So if you have an E36 M3 or you've seen one, you'll know they have a little sport button. That harness has the ability to have that wired into this car. I didn't choose to use it because I would have had to have drilled into my dash somewhere a circular button. It wouldn't have matched anything on this car. So I just chose to leave it in sport mode all the time because, I mean, honestly, let's face it, when you get into your M3, you're always putting it in sport mode anyway. That's every car I've driven. If it has sport mode, I was always in sport mode. So I went without that. If you're gonna do bare bones, engine, harness, one of the things that Boost Logic, Roman, would not do, a non-optional item, is rod bearings. The S54 is notorious for having rod bearing failure. So when you get an S54 with, this one had 100,000 miles on it, a lot of people are gonna say just switch the rod bearings, swap them out, put new rod bearings in right away. That's a non-negotiable for Roman over at Boost Logic. As soon as they got this, took off the bottom end, took off the oil pan, replaced the rod bearings. Here's where we get into a little debate. So, well, actually, hold on. Okay, so S54 4000, the Andrew over at Rev Limited, the wire harness, that's gonna run you about 800 bucks. Rod bearing replacement, which is down there, you can't see it. The rod bearings are about 300 bucks plus whatever your labor rate is for whatever shop is doing it. One of the places we get into a little bit of a debate, well, I say we, I'm sure someone will debate me on this. I know Brett is a stickler for this and he's probably right, but one of the things Roman says is with the Vanos on these. Vanos is a notorious fail point for S54s. A lot of guys replace the Vanos when the engine is out. Roman at Boost Logic, he's done a lot of these swaps and he's of the mind that you look at the Vanos, you see what type of condition it's in. If it looks like it's good, he won't touch it. It's about an extra $2,000 to replace everything for a shop to do it. I'm sure someone else could do it on their own for cheaper, but he's of the mind that if it looks good, it's not rattling, everything is working properly, he doesn't want to replace it. You can go ahead and do it. Dr. Vanos is actually local in Austin, so if at some point I want to do it, I'll take this to him and he'll do it. But right now, this Vanos system was looking A-okay, so they didn't touch it. But that could be an extra cost if you're looking at doing this. All right, so we got, just for the bare bones, we got the motor, we got the wire harness, we got the rod bearings, some form of coolant, some form of cooling radiator. You're also going to need a pedal assembly because the S54 uses fly-by-wire, drive-by-wire pedal as opposed to the cable throttle that the S50, at least in my case, used. You can get a conversion and convert the fly-by-wire to cable. I've only heard a few things about it. I didn't want to take the chance on it, so I didn't do that. But that, again, is going to be 180 bucks plus assembly. So again, you know, you're looking at a couple $100 minimum. You don't have to do a 6-speed. You can do your normal 5-speed. You don't have to do an exhaust. You can do that. Then it's maintenance items. Since the motor's out, a lot of guys like to do things like a water pump. You know, you can do belts, things like that. All together, to get the swap into an E36, bare bone, doing the work yourself, but still taking into account the maintenance items that you should look at doing. Roman was saying, and I've done a lot of research, the cheapest he's ever done it for without labor, just parts, would be about $9 grand. That might include labor actually, about $9 grand. So if you get all the parts, do everything yourself, even if you say you skimp out on all the maintenance, the motor itself, let's round that down to middle of the road and say $3,500 plus a wire harness. Let's call that $800. That right there is almost $4,500 bucks. At the very least, you're gonna wanna do rod bearings. At the very least, I would say at the very, very, very minimum, you're gonna have to get the throttle pedal. You're gonna have to, it's going to be at least $7,000, $8,000 bucks for an S54 into this. Now, what did I do? I did a lot more, and I mean a lot more. So I already showed you the radiator. That was a couple $1,000 bucks. Then, I mean, you can't miss this big fat carbon air box. This thing is the loudest air box I've ever heard, and I have the intake noise on this really, it's louder than my R8 was. It reminds me of my brother's Gallardo. Super loud intake induction noise. It sounds absolutely amazing. This was an extra 600 bucks. It's not bad. Roman actually got this on eBay, and he's used these for probably 8 out of the 10 S54 swaps that he's done in the past few years. He's never had a problem with them. They've always been great quality. So you can't really beat it for 600 bucks. It's a great air box. If anything goes wrong with it, again, it was only 600 bucks. I can replace it. But for the time being, that is going to stay, and it was a great buy. So that was extra. I also had to get new motor mounts, which you can't see. Lemforder motor mounts. Lemforder. Anyway, I needed new motor mounts because mine were absolutely shot. So I got new motor mounts. That was a couple $100 bucks. Also, you can't see them down there, but beneath that nice little heat shield, there are a set of Euro headers. You don't have to use Euro headers. You can stick with the US OEM headers. They have cats in there. I didn't want cats, so I went with Euro headers. I got those ceramic coated. That was a couple $100 bucks extra. You don't have to do that, but it's good for heat, and they look awesome. I mean, they're just an awesome set of headers. So that was a couple $100 extra bucks, plus the Euro headers. I want to say I got for like $400 or $500 bucks. I would have to check. Then this car also runs E85. I use the APE kit for that, APE tuning kit for that, which you can get on M Sport Parts. And shout out to them. Brett over at M Sport Parts has been a huge help in this entire build. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, I've said his name 100 times. So go over there if you want E85 for your car. They have a bunch of different kits, but that isn't necessary, but I got that. That was, I think, $600 or $700 bucks. He might have given me a deal on that. So the retail is right around what I said. Also extra is this Stromung exhaust. Now that exhaust sounds absolutely nuts. Can you make a stock exhaust work? Yes, you'll still have to do a little bit of cutting to mount everything up to the headers because the headers are a little different. But that exhaust mounts to a SuperSprint center section, which then we had to customize a little bit to mount to the Euro headers. The SuperSprint center section isn't a 2-into-1, it's a 2 singular pipes all the way back, which mounts to the Stromung, which is 2 individual pipes as well. So the flow is really good. The only difference is the Stromung is a smaller diameter than the SuperSprint. So there might be a little bit of a bottleneck there. But again, I'm not trying to squeeze all the horsepowers out of this thing. So if we lose a couple horsepower because of that smaller diameter, I'm not worried about it. But the Stromung, I want to say was 600 or 700. The SuperSprint was again $600 or $700. All of that, all extra, not needed. Don't need to do it, but I wanted to do it. Let's move on to the rear end of the car here, because this isn't something that needed to be done. So the rear end, I went with the 6-speed transmission, amazing, that has a lightened flywheel and an upgraded Sachs clutch. Then also the diff is a 364 rear end. So 364 will change how the car feels, the gear ratio basically. So first is a little, I'm not sure the exact gearing, but it makes the car feel a little faster. It changes the gearing, so first might be shorter, second might be shorter, third might be shorter. Maybe it has a longer final drive. Some guys will upgrade to like a 377 rear end, but when you do that, if you're going down the highway at 80, you could be cruising at like 4,000, 5,000 RPMs, and that's just way too aggressive. So 364 is really nice. I actually cruised around 70 miles an hour yesterday, and it sits right about 3,200 RPM, which is perfect. But I got a smoking deal on that entire setup. The transmission, the clutch, the 364, the light and flywheel, all of it. Oh, a DSSR, short shifter as well. All of that Roman had for sale, and I actually got all of it for $1,500. So that was a smoking deal. Not necessary, but a smoking deal. Also, if you're gonna do a 6-speed trans swap, I don't know if this is necessary, but I believe you may need a Euro 6-speed drive shaft. Do a little more research into that, because I'm not sure. And Brett, if you're watching, comment down below, because he's the first one that told me about that. This swap actually came with that. So the trans and everything I got came with a Euro 6-speed drive shaft, so it has a Euro drive shaft in it. But let me know in the comments section if that's necessary. Also, I believe if you do the 6-speed swap, you need a trans harness, I believe. I forgot the reasoning Roman gave me for that, but I do have a Z3 M 6-speed transmission harness on this as well. Again, not needed in the swap. You don't have to do it. But since I did upgrade to a 6-speed, got it. Also, on the topic of rear end, I went ahead and did all the bushings in the rear end. AKG Motorsport rear subframe bushing, AKG Motorsport rear differential bushings, AKG Motorsport R-tab, which R-tab, rear trailing arm bush, or rear trailing arm, they actually have to clean up where the old one goes. It's a metal piece, and they actually have to weld the new one. It's a reinforcement. They have to weld the new plate into where the old one was. The R-tab failure, I believe, is a common fail point for the E36. So that's done on this. Then we got AKG Motorsport F-cab, AKG Motorsport R-tab reinforcement plates. Okay, so R-tab and R-tab reinforcement plates. So I've basically replaced all the bushings in the rear end. If you go on AKG, you'll see there's red, which are basically race, and there's black, which are not race. There was kind of a debate between if black was going to be too harsh of a ride for street. To be honest, I mean, maybe some of the gearbox noise can be attributed to the mounts. I forgot what transmission mounts I have, but the transmission mounts were a little more aggressive. Maybe that can be a cause of why my drivetrain is a little more noisy than others, but also I believe the 6-speed trans is just a little noisier as is. As for the ride and the vibration in the car itself, it's really not bad. I mean, if you're looking for a Cadillac driving experience where everything is sound deadened and you're floating on a cloud, you're not going to have this car anyway. The way I have it set up, it really reminds me of my C63 Black Series that I had. It feels like a proper little race car slash go-kart. It really does. It's not, the suspension isn't too stiff. The bushings, the mounts, all of those feel fine to me. So if you're looking at the red ones, I can't comment on those. I do know those are aggressive, and I've been told do not get them. The black AKG Motorsport mounts or bushings are fine. But again, all that stuff was extra. I believe all the bushings I bought roughly, let's see, 175, 110, 75, 35, 35, 27. The bushings I got probably, and the R-tab, probably all add up to around 500 bucks. The main thing for the R-tab is, again, the labor to actually weld those in. And it's right in front of the rear tire there. That was probably another 2 or 3 hours, which again is gonna be 300 to 450 bucks. Unnecessary. Don't need to do it, but it's great maintenance for these cars. Then again, more maintenance stuff, oil pan gasket, all the fluids that you need. We had a radiator hose kit, new spark plugs. I had to get a new clutch master cylinder because mine was dead. I mean, it's on a 25-year-old car. And then just random things, a 2.25-inch hose coupler, genuine connecting rod bolt, L-ring exhaust manifold gasket because my exhaust manifold gasket is toast, it's old. Coolant, a BMW coolant dual temp fan switch, spiral relay for fan wiring, exhaust header outlet gasket. All these things are just miscellaneous things that are going to add up to the entire cost of this. Some of them may not be necessary. I mean, things like gaskets, hoses, things like that are things that you're going to need to replace if you're doing this. You're not gonna have the engine out and then skimp on a $30 hose. It's just not what you wanna do. So anyway, I'm starting to ramble. I don't have any idea how long this video is anyway, but for everything I did at Boost Logic, including the motor, not including the extra stuff I did like the radiator, that's all stuff, the exhaust I bought on my own, but all the stuff for Boost Logic invoices came out to a total of right around 14 grand. That's with the motor, that's with all the services they did, that's with mounting, that's with tuning, that's everything. Now some of you guys might be saying, oh my God, that's an insane amount of money. Why don't you spend that on an LS swap? It doesn't fit to me. It doesn't seem right to me. This motor sounds, behaves, acts, the car feels like it was born with this motor in it. I may do a swap like that in the future on a different car, but for this car, I really wanted to have a clean S54 swapped E36. It's not a horsepower freak. I know I could have gotten more horsepower by throwing an LS in there for half the amount of money, throwing a cam in the LS and calling it good. That's not what I wanted to do with this. You can do it cheaper. You don't have to do everything I did. So if you're wanting to do this and you hear 14 grand and you think that's crazy, don't let that number throw you off. You can do this for half the amount by doing it yourself if you don't mind it taking whatever your skill level is. Can you do this on your own? 100%. Do you need a lot of tools? Yes. Are you gonna be stuck on a lot of spots? Definitely. If it's worth it to you to have a 6-7 month project, then do it on your own. I think in the future, I will do one of these cars. I will do an E36 M3 and swap it on my own when my setup is more than this. When I have room for a cherry picker, when I have more garage space, when I'm not going to be taking up, taking up both stalls because you're doing an engine swap and your fiance doesn't have a place to park for 6 to 8 months would get a little annoying. So when I have more room in the future, I will definitely attempt this. All in all though, it is a lot of money, but this car is an absolute beast. It feels so perfect. It feels like it should have had this motor from the get-go. The entire setup feels perfect. The 6-speed trans, if you can pop for it, do it. It feels amazing. The gearing is perfect. 364 rear end is a really nice addition. Overall, it's whatever you want to put into it. This is kind of my dream build for this car, and it's what I wanted to put money into. It's what I wanted to throw on YouTube. It's what I wanted to spend a lot of time and energy on. I think it turned out amazing, but I'm nowhere near done. I have a lot more plans for this. So again, if you're new to the channel, smash that subscribe. I need subscribers after this build. So smash that subscribe button. There's gonna be a ton more content on this car, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.